Hallo und willkommen, and that will be my only German word for today, and then we'll switch directly to English because, as you know, Sabrina mentioned, I'm French, and so I'm happy today to discuss with you around three main topics, definitely: collaboration, clean room, and measurement. And so I have the great luck to having Ralph with me today from TikTok to discuss around like this great project that we have launched together since now, 2 years? Oh, yeah, not moving in the background. Yeah, perfect. Just a couple words about LiveRamp. So we are a data collaboration network. So we are here to help different actors of the ecosystem from, for example, brands, from agencies, from platform tech publishers to really collaborate with each other, because we know that there is silo, and we know that as soon as we are speaking about first-party data like CRM data or PII, we are really protective and privacy around it, and we all want, to keep this data in our own universe. However, we know how efficient it can be to be able, to collaborate with other, platforms or other brands, and that's where Cleanroom really, appears. It's where we are helping these brands to collaborate with each other without any movement of the data, but by making available, some request or question through the dataset to run some analysis. And so that's, I would have said, the general speech. But when we are going directly to Germany, and for today, we are currently in a collaboration network between different entities. So we have a platform, which is TikTok. We have then, of course, CPGs that are running campaign on TikTok. And on the other side, you have an idea of consumer and brands that are currently, buying this product in a dedicated, in a dedicated retail, here, grocery retail. And so, what did we achieve here in terms of collaboration? And I was mentioning, we were speaking data collaboration, clean room, and then measurement. Let's go directly in the measurement. We were working to powering in-store sales lift. That means that for any campaign run by CPG on TikTok, we were providing an in-store sales lift, which means that where today we're always thinking of last click or online purchase, we make here available some in-store purchase and be able to, to use that signal to match them to an exposure. And so in sales lift, the raw idea behind it is to showcase how impactful one campaign can be and one platform can be. And so we are looking at two groups. One, which is exposed, so those are the ads. Another one, which was unexposed, didn't show the ads, but they are, equivalent. Equivalent from the usage of the social network, equivalent of the purchase behaviors inside the retailers. So we are really comparing, P's and P's. Then we match these two groups to the in-store sales, just to have a look how currently they are buying in-store. And for the exposed group, if they are buying more, we're considering this as incremental. That means that all these sales are driven thanks to the ads. So thanks to the campaign that was on TikTok. And it's how we can, generating all this measurement. And through the last 2-3 years collaboration, we have run around 40 reports, and we're able to give this average current impact of TikTok in-store sales. And so in average, what we are seeing 10% total lift. That means that in average, when you advertise on TikTok, the person who saw the ads spend 10% more in-store, so in the physical retail store. In customer lift, you are seeing this 10.7. Here, it's an idea of acquisition. In average, we are seeing more person in the exposed group buying, which was not previously a buyer in this dedicated store of this product. And so that's showcasing that in addition of spending more, you have an idea of there is more person who's going in store. And the last one, which is incremental return on ad spend. In average, when you are spending €1 on TikTok, you have 1.10 euros incremental. That means really this tiny portion of really drives thanks to the ads. Ralph, speaking to these figures, do you want to add?
Some context on these figures. So basically what you see here is we see on average what is the lift driven or sales lift driven by TikTok campaigns. And what's really powerful about being able to tap into individual retail transactions is what you see under customer lift, right? So we're able to understand where that lift is actually coming from. What are the key drivers of sales lift? So in this, here on average, we're seeing roughly 11% across all campaigns last year. We're acquiring new customers. And through that solution, we're able to better understand basically the mechanics of lift. Is it new buyers coming in? Is it existing buyers purchasing more frequently? And on the next slide, we've brought one example. So this is a super recent case with Veleda. They gave the approval to show this. We were just a bit late with the deadline. So they didn't have crocodiles in their creatives. They had real people. It was essentially a campaign on face care, and basically we were seeing about 40% sales lift coming from that campaign. And the objective of that campaign was also to bring in new customers, new users, which is also something that we measured. We were able to validate that about 40% of new customers are now using that product that previously didn't have a purchase history or didn't have a usage history with it. So very powerful insight for the advertiser to understand whether the campaign was actually able to bring in new users. What's also particularly powerful about being able to tap into individual transactions is what you see down here. We're also able to look at the effectiveness of the different campaign components, right? So when you think about the overall activation, there's different pieces of the campaign. You have, say, reach up front, and then you follow up with auction. Veleda used a product called consideration ads, so basically targeting users in the mid-funnel that are signaling intent for such a product and running ads against that. So, and with that solution, we were able to also prove whether that particular campaign component has worked. And essentially, this is really powerful in the conversation with advertisers, because very often we're getting questions around, okay, if I'm running a campaign with creator-led assets versus brand-led assets or a mix of it, what is the impact on sales? And we're able to address these questions quite well. Moving on to another example, it's a bit of a one of our first cases actually. That was with Unilever Dove. Campaign that hit benchmarks really, really well and overperformed benchmarks. And not just did we look at sales lift in isolation. What we like to do is also to basically add brand measurement on top of the sales measurement, right? So that sales measurement is not running in isolation. We also want to understand the impact on consumer perceptions and awareness. And that campaign also worked quite strong on things like awareness for an established brand. Like everybody knows Dove, and you're still able to, they were still able to increase that among users. So pretty strong campaign, and this basically is a best practice that we're recommending to advertisers in general, to look at not just sales lift in isolation, but understand the full funnel impact of the campaign through additional tools like things like brand lift studies.
And which is really important to showcasing that we know that the measurement journey is not only, an MMM or an MTA or a sales lift, but it's a combination of, all these different tools to really, drive an ID. We know that MMM and MTA are just really great for, media planning and having an idea of where you need to spend and across the year, which platform you need to invest in, where sales lift is really showcasing the real impact of a dedicated campaign at a dedicated time. And so these two use cases were very great, because you can see that they are definitely on the top of the performances in versus the average that we have run. And what was quite efficient through the analysis that we have run is the idea that we can really deep dive in the different combination across, for example, frequency capping, showcasing that the more recurrent your message is, the more often you are able to expose to an individual, you have more impact, which is quite not new for marketers, right? We all know it's like the right message at the right place and at the right time. But here, that's really quite obvious that the more you're able to be exposed, the more you have currently an impact in store. And as we are mentioning with the previous one, you have this idea of consideration ads. It's the idea to validating some dedicated strategy. What we are seeing through all the analysis that we have run with TikTok is this idea of, some brands that are going with branding. They just want, reach and frequencies. Some of them are looking definitely for lower funnel impact and, quick performances. And with consideration ads, the good part is we are going, at the middle funnel. Because with consideration, you have this idea, it's a mix between branding and definitely like direct impact. And with the Veleda use cases, we're able to showcasing to them that the current strategy that they have applied on this dedicated platform, driving results and great result, because that was currently doubling the result, first on the lift, then on the acquisition of new client. And it's where we are seeing again that the collaboration can unlocking all that measurement and drive future, I would have said, recommendation. We are giving currently a recipe to the CPG to tell him, okay, before you were looking for last click, now you can looking for ROPO, which is research online, purchase offline, and having a dedicated strategy really, to tie and having the best, component in this recipe. And so now that we have shown, or like we saw these two case studies, you have this idea of what data collaboration can do. We were mentioning again, collaboration and measurement. Here, for the CPG brands, having these retailers, the platforms, and then the CPG working all together, we're able to having this idea of what, how, and why. And we know definitely quantifying the real, campaign impact, not just taking the portion of the online purchase. In average, we know that retailers, the online purchase is only 10%. Now it was the top of the iceberg. Now we can, with this, take the full component of the iceberg and really giving what was driving, quick result for online transaction, and then what driving the real and what are the real effort to having, this offline impact too. We have the how, just to definitely bridging that gap between, what I was mentioning. Here it's, again, the idea that we can access to both. And so by making this individual transaction available, we can really just pinpoint where and what is driving better result. And the last one is the why. I would like to say the Unilever use cases that we were just showcasing before. It's a perfect one because that giving an idea of ad recall and brand lift. So everything related to the knowledge of the brands. If you are going to intend to buy it, to having then a validation of yes, at the end they really purchase that product, and we are seeing great impact of this dedicated strategy that you have launched in this market. Then we are going at the end of the presentation, but in the summary, as you just saw now on the last 15 minutes, be able to enabling this collaboration between different actors can really drive efficient and impactful KPIs to really drive and having the best recipe then to perform. And of course, you can run this with a dedicated platform. And so that means that you can replicating this with any activation that you have across the different ecosystem from DOH to CTV to, of course, social network.
So thank you so much. We got 2 questions, 3 now. First one, can you measure a concrete sales uplift outcome for a specific retailer, for example, a supermarket?
Yeah. So currently, so we are not able today to mention who the partner is in the retailer front, but the idea is it was not a combination of multi retailers. It was one dedicated retailer. So you saw that this one was on the beauty retailers. We are doing the same with grocery retail. So we can select in which dedicated vertical we want to be able to measure.
Okay, and one question for Ralph. I think, do you work with other DCRs than LiveRamp too?
We do. Yes.
Of course.
It's because that list keeps changing. That's why. But yeah, the common ones that you would think of, we're integrated with. Yes, and there's also more integrations possible, right? So there's more on the roadmap.
Okay, and one short last question. How does the integration between Liberale and TikTok function for an advertiser agency? What are the requirements?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
How does the integration between Liberale and LiveRamp, sorry, and TikTok function for an advertiser or agency?
Basically, the integration is independent of the advertiser, right? So we have a partnership with LiveRamp that we're exchanging impression data with, consented impression data. And LiveRamp, on your part, you have your data partnerships that then enable this kind of measurement that we've just shown here.
And you have this split between the idea of running what we're calling third party. So when you're brands, but you do not have direct access to transactional data like retailers. So it's where we can helping with partner networks that we have across the retailers space, or if we're speaking of other vertical, that could be entertainment with some cinemas. And then you have the other front when we're speaking of first party data. So when retailers are directly, this. We were speaking of CPGs, but we could replicate this to any currently brands who have direct access to their transactional data. And we have run a bunch of reports across, the tune-in to the retailers to, some QSR company to showcasing the impact of this. So the measurement partnership that we have in place can be for both on the idea of third party or when you have your own data but you doesn't want to send any transactional touch point to TikTok, we can operate here and showcasing what are the impact of this campaign.
Yes, thank you so much for the insights and golden nuggets.